Why, hello there. Welcome back to my channel if you're already subscribed. If not, welcome. I'm Dylan and I make college app related videos and other stuff. Today I went a little bold on my makeup because, I don't know, was just feeling it. I hadn't been wearing makeup in a while because I'm just living at home. But I thought I'd dress up for you guys. Also, I look like Christmas. So happy holidays, even though it's the summer. Now you clicked this video for a reason, so let's get into it. If you saw my last video, you saw that I talked about how college admissions are based on so many different factors, so it's really hard to pinpoint whether like a certain extracurricular or class or whatever will immediately get you in or get you rejected. Because all of that is so vague, it is kind of hard to say what specific things you need to do to make sure you are accepted into a school. However, there is data online that states what colleges value as more important and least important, and basically just what they consider and not consider in their application admissions process. I really want to thank you guys for submitting comments under my community tab when I asked you what schools you were applying to and what colleges you want me to compare in these videos. In this video, I'm going to be paying close attention to the Ivy League schools and Stanford, since Stanford is kind of like an Ivy League but on the western side. And I'm going to be comparing all these different colleges against each other so you can see what things that certain colleges value at a higher importance than others. This information is really good and important to know so that when you are crafting your college applications, you can strategize specifically according to the schools so you know which factors that they really pay attention to, so you can especially emphasize those factors in your application. And in the same way, if you know that this specific school doesn't consider this factor like at all, then you don't need to waste your time talking about it or including it in your application as much. All of the data that I'm about to show you was based off the 2019 to 2020 school year, unless stated otherwise. So now I'm going to take you into the application of Microsoft OneNote, as usual in my videos, and show you a chart that I've created and talk you through it. Alright, welcome to my glorious OneNote application. Today we are going to college compare the Ivy Leagues and Stanford. Like I said, this is all based off of the common data set for 2019 to 2020, unless stated otherwise, and the stated otherwise part is Princeton. Princeton only had available the 2018 through 2019 as their most recent. Also, I know a lot of you guys asked for Columbia, and I would have loved to provide information on Columbia. However, they did not release their data and I couldn't find their data online. So let me explain a little bit before we get super into this. So what I have here is a chart, and I have the colleges listed on the x-axis, and on the y-axis I have very important, considered, and not considered. These are literally the metrics that they use in the common data set, so I'm not making any of this up. It is literal data that has been released to the world. If I put a star next to a certain factor, that is because whatever the factor is tends to be varying among the colleges, or it's unlike the others, so I want to especially note that so you can pay attention to that. And then if it is highlighted in this turquoise light blue highlight, then that means that it is especially unique to that college, or like rarely any colleges, like only a couple of them. And so that is interesting to note because it is different than all the other colleges that I'm comparing it against. Yes, it's important to note that the stars and the highlights that I put on here are completely based off of me comparing the specific schools in this chart. So I'm going to do other videos where I do this same chart for other private schools, for the UC schools, and for the Cal State schools. But in terms of the stars and the highlights, that is just according to this chart, if that makes any sense. Okay, let's start. The first one on our list, because I go here and because it's not really an Ivy League, so let's just get it out of the way, is Stanford. So what is very important to them? All right, so rigor, class rank, GPA, test scores, your essay, your recommendations, your extracurriculars, whether you have a talent or ability, hint hint art portfolio or something like that, and your character or personal qualities. I feel like this is pretty self-explanatory. I mean, it makes sense, like those would be the things on the highest part of the list, which is always why I stress that you should really pay attention to your essays especially, and your character and your personal qualities, that needs to be shown through your essays. All right, now for what's considered important. Turns out it's nothing. There is literally nothing in this box, so we're just gonna move on. Now, the things that are considered when reviewing your application are your interview, whether you're first generation, if you have a relative who is a Stanford alumni, your geographical residence, your racial or ethnic status, your volunteer work, and your work experience. And now here are the factors that Stanford does not take into consideration at all. Your state residency and your level of interest, meaning whether you actually express interest in going to that school. This is not to say that you shouldn't express interest in going to Stanford at all throughout your application or interview, because hello, they won't want you to be like, yeah, I don't really care about going to your school, I'm just applying for no reason. So I wouldn't refrain from expressing any interest, but this is just something that's interesting to note. Moving on to Harvard, they're kind of interesting. Under very important, let's see what they've got. Would you look at that? It's nothing. Under important, let's see what they've got. Turns out it's nothing. Yeah, so that's pretty weird. I don't know what that's about. But here's what's under considered. Pretty much everything. Rigor, GPA, test scores, essay, recommendations, interview, extracurriculars, talent, ability, character, personal qualities, first generation, alumni relation, geographical residence, race or ethnic status, volunteer work, or work experience. I don't know if Harvard was just trying to be like, I want to be different because I'm not like other schools. But they kind of just lumped everything into considered, so maybe it's an even playing field. And then let's take a look at the not considered. Class rank, state residency, and level of interest. Now, different than Stanford, your class rank in your high school doesn't matter at all for Harvard's application, where it's very important for Stanford's application. And now we're moving on to Brown. The factors that they deem are most important in your application are rigor, class rank, GPA, test scores, essay, recommendations, talent, ability, and character or personal qualities. Okay, let's move on to the important things now and see if they're actually gonna fill out this box, because hello, Stanford and Harvard just kind of ignored this box. Boom, your extracurriculars are under important rather than very important or considered. And now for the things that are considered for Brown are the interview, whether you're first generation, alumni relation, geographical residence, state residency, that's different than the other ones, racial ethnic status, volunteer work, and work experience. And the things that they do not consider are your level of interest. Now, moving on to Cornell. Let's see what they have to say. Under very important, their most important factors are, what do you know? Rigor, GPA, test scores, essay, recommendations, extracurriculars, talent, ability, and character, personal qualities. Then for their important things, they have class rank. Interesting. That's a little different than what we've been seeing. And then for their considered, they have interview, first generation, alumni relation, geographical residence, state residency, racial, ethnic status, volunteer work, and work experience. So under considered, Brown and Cornell are the same pretty much. And their important things are a little bit different though, because you can see extracurriculars and class rank. And then for the things that they do not care about are just your level of interest. Moving on to Yale. Why did I say it like that? Why are my hands like that? Under very important, we have, what do you know? Rigor, class rank, GPA, test scores, essay, recommendations, extracurriculars, talent, ability, and character, personal qualities. And then under important, they have nothing. And then under considered, their factors are the interview, first generation, alumni relation, geographical residence, state residency, racial ethnic status, volunteer work, and work experience. And I feel like you all know by now, the thing that's gonna be under they're not considered is level of interest. Now, it seems that Yale is pretty much the same as Stanford in terms of their evaluation criteria, except for state residency. They actually do take that into consideration. Moving on to U of Penn. The factors they deem most important are rigor, GPA, test scores, essay, recommendations, and character, personal qualities. This is a little less than what we've been seeing so far, so let's see what they have under important. Class rank, interview, extracurriculars, and talent and ability. This is really interesting to see that, okay, they value these things a little bit more than they value these things. just creates that hierarchy. And then under considered, they have first generation, alumni relation, geographical residence, state residency, racial, ethnic status, volunteer work experience, and what do you know? Level of interest. What's that, UPenn? You want me to tell you that I want to go to your school? Okay. You heard it here, folks. If you want to apply to UPenn, maybe you should express some interest in the school because they actually pay attention to that. Next up on the list, we have Princeton. Reminder that this is from the 2018 to 2019 school year and not the 2019 to 2020 because this is just the data that I had available to me. For the category of very important, they have rigor, class rank, GPA, test scores, essay, recommendations, extracurriculars, talent, ability, character, and personal qualities. Sounds, yeah, that makes sense. Under important, they have nothing. Under considered, they have interview, first generation, alumni relation, geographical residence, racial, ethnic status, volunteer work, and work experience. Then for the things that are not considered, what do you know? State residency and level of interest. This information is actually the exact same as Stanford. So Stanford and Princeton evaluate their criteria pretty much the same. Last but not least, we have Dartmouth. For Dartmouth's very important factors, we have rigor, class rank, GPA, test scores, essay, recommendations, extracurriculars, character, personal qualities. Then under important, we have talent or ability. And for the things that are considered, we have interview, first generation, alumni relation, geographical residence, racial or ethnic status, volunteer work experience, and what was that? I'm sorry, what was that? Level of interest. That's right, U of Penn and Dartmouth want to know you want to go to their school. And then for the things that are not considered are, it's just your state residency. That completes the Ivy Leagues and Stanford list. Unfortunately, Columbia could not be included on this list, but they left themselves out by not releasing their data. I would just like to point out that this chart really shows that Harvard, they want to be different. They're not going to include any very important things. You know, I'm just making fun here. Of course, these are the hard facts. It's the data that was released, and that's all I gotta say. Stay tuned for another video because I am going to continue doing these college compare charts with the other colleges that you guys suggested. If you guys want more colleges suggested, let me know in the comments. I already have a huge list that I'm really excited to share. So I'm going to be doing other private schools that aren't Ivy Leagues, and then I'm also going to be doing UC schools and Cal States. That is it for today's video. I hope it was interesting for you. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I look forward to talking with you guys again. See you later.